All right, good afternoon, and thank you, Jason and Adam, for joining us. Appreciate it. I know the last couple of weeks down in California have not been the best, and you guys have been battling a lot of things. So appreciate you
Yeah.
jumping on the call and having a conversation with us. Jason, I wanted to start the conversation with you. GPL is a globally known system integrator. You guys have been around for decades. You've seen industry trends and innovations come and go. And when you saw CaraOne, your whole team jumped on it so quickly. And I just wanted you to kind of comment on that yourself, on what you saw in CaraOne and how you saw it fitting to a lot of the clients that you have in the industry.
Um, so I think there's a few reasons that it was particularly compelling for us, right? So we serve a lot of customers, and everybody from, 5 or 10 guys in a garage all the way up to Fortune 500 enterprise companies. So we kind of see the gamut of what's required. And two things are always really important. First one is cost, right? So everybody wants to know it's going to be relatively inexpensive based on what they're getting and still provide value. And they want to know that it's secure. And I think a lot of the AI facilities and tools that we've seen come out lately have been based on cloud, right? So all of the compute runs in the cloud, all the data is transiting the cloud. So security has been a big concern for a lot of people. They don't want to put their data in the cloud, and they don't want to incur the cost of moving their data into and out of the cloud. So when we found out that CaraOne was a completely on-prem solution and it didn't have any links to the cloud, that was extremely compelling for us. We knew that we could take that to folks and say, listen, this data will never leave your data center. Your security is completely intact. So your data is completely sovereign to what you're doing, and no one else ever has to see it. Even an encrypted version of it, it's all yours. But the fact that CaraOne can do what it does in the footprint that it does it and maintain all of that on-prem is really amazing. And then just from a pure cost perspective, right? I already touched on the cloud cost of processing and data transit, but just the cost of the appliance itself is, for the kind of value that you're getting out of CaraOne, it seems like it should be more expensive in a way, right? Like it seems like you should probably
I
be
can
paying
work
more
on
for
that
it.
if you want.
That
I can
doesn't mean
work
you need to
on
charge more for it,
Don't
but
tell
I'm
him
just saying it's one of those
that.
things that you're going, okay, well, this is remarkably valuable. It changes the way I can do everything, or the way that I at least think about the data that I have. So it's almost like you don't know what the value is, and it seems like it's just too cheap for what it does, right? Because it changes everything. So those two things were really kind of the compelling motivating factors for us in thinking that CaraOne was the direction we wanted to go with these kind of products.
Excellent. And when we launched the product, we did struggle on the pricing. We went back and forth on it, and we knew the kind of savings it was bringing to the customers. Um, where we kind of fell back and said, we wanted to price this product where it was usable for much larger audience in the industry. If we were charging $100,000, $200,000 for the service and built it in such a way to do that, then it leaves a lot of the smaller entities out that can really take advantage of it. So we priced it where we did in order to meet the small, the medium, and let the enterprise guys scale with it and still make it very affordable for them. So right now, I
Yeah.
think it's a good decision. Uh,
Yeah, I'm really glad you did it the way you did, because that what you're talking about happens all too often in this industry. I think media and entertainment is viewed by a lot of software and hardware vendors as an exciting place to be, but it's not a huge market in comparison to some of the other ones. So we'll see a lot of products be priced in such a way that the guys who are in the garage or the guys who are at a small studio, they may be dealing with a petabyte of data, and they can't afford to pay on a per petabyte or per terabyte basis. And a lot of enterprise vendors aren't set up for that kind of billing, right? Like they're set up to do it on a much higher scale. So the fact that you guys have priced it where you have has been really compelling for us, and has really helped to open doors in places that I think many other I don't even want to say similar, but kind of similar products I can't really even play, because they're targeted towards a much more enterprise kind of situation.
Okay, so let's move on to Adam. He's the man of the hour here. We want to talk to a customer that uses CaraOne that has had the experience of the product itself. And so Adam, Sonic Gods, I thought maybe you could start and talk a little bit about the traditional workflow before CaraOne and kind of how you guys would do things. And then
Yeah,
we can
totally.
ask you a few questions about CaraOne and how it impacted that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for us, we work through a Premiere workflow. So everything is based on Premiere. We have a centralized NAS system that all the shows get loaded onto a production file that then splits out into, multiple editors, and sometimes it's two editors, sometimes it's five editors, right? And when I came across CaraOne, we had just wrapped production on a new series called Just Hands for the Love of Racing. It's a docu-series about a quadriplegic race car driver. And I was a bit nervous going into post-production on this just because of as the project went on, because it was a docu-series, because the story expanded. I won't give away too much. You've got to watch the series when it comes out. The shoot just expanded a significant amount, and we were shooting weeks at a time. We had, five main cameras on set, and then sometimes up to eight cameras rigged within the cars. And some of these races, for example, like one of the races was 8 hours long. So, you do the math on that, the shoot ratio is very, very high. We also work a lot with brands. So this show was, financed partially by brand integration through various companies. We had contractual obligations to those brands for, various amounts of like product placement and stuff like that. And, because of the nature of shooting a docu-series, not a lot of this stuff was planned out. It was shot on the fly. We were literally following them, around. So by the time we got all the footage back to LA and loaded into the NAS, I'm just looking at the sheer amount of footages on here. Like even with the racing stuff, like we had, one race could be up to 50 hours of footage to sift through and all that kind of stuff. So, as I was doing my sort of like post budgets on these, there was a lot that was, variable going into the post production process on this show, and I was literally like with all the AI tools that are popping up. I was like, I'm going to head out to NAB and see what's going on out there and see what new AI tools, especially on the post-production side, are out there that could potentially help us with this. And, when I came across Cara, I instantly saw the benefits of it, especially on a show like this where, again, the shoot ratio is extremely high. We don't have post-production notes. We had five cameras on set. A lot of the time those are split into 3 or 4 units, so they're all over the place. So honestly, it was a bit of a daunting task going into this whole thing because I just knew how long some of these takes were, and a big portion of the post-production process I knew was going to be the initial setup and going through and sifting through all the footage and, finding these moments, these golden nuggets in these huge long takes. So, we were very fortunate to come across Cara before that happened and connect with the guys over at Scale Logic. And being able to implement that system into this post-production process, I think I saw a sense of relief from the editors when we first got it up and running because, they were looking at, 70 terabytes of FX6 footage. FX6 footage is already pretty compressed, so you can imagine the sheer amount of footage that is. And being able to implement that into our workflow, I mean, the time saving on, just the searching through footage and all that kind of stuff has been pretty significant.
I've got a question for you on that really quick.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
when your editors are sifting through all that footage, one of the cool things we've seen about CaraOne is that it understands things in a way that traditional metadata doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So you can say, show me something cool, or show me something outside, or show me something hot. And it has this kind of contextual awareness of what's going on in the scene. How much did you guys use that sort of functionality versus show me a car going around a corner, or
No,
like
we
how much of it was like, emotionally driven
We
searches?
used it a lot, especially like once we had uploaded all the headshots of all the cast and the characters of talent, whatever you want to call them, into Cara. I mean, for example, like we had a lot of footage sitting on the side of the track with the race car driver's like wife watching the race happen and all that kind of stuff. And I think the amount of times we were like, search for a point where Maggie is watching a race where she looks nervous, for example. And again, those were 2 to 3 second moments in extremely long clips with multiple cameras that honestly probably would have taken an editor an hour to 2 hours to really sift through and make sure that they're finding the right moments, which got taken down to literally just a search function. So we were using the emotional search a lot, to find different clips, and we were using a lot of the time to find product placement. So Pennzoil Shell was for example, one of the brand sponsors on this show, and they're using their products, right? So we're not trying to force them. We're not setting the shot to get these moments. We're actually shooting them for real. So like I say, they were just spread out sporadically across the entire shoot. And, these takes, for example, some of the takes, are like, as I said, very long. And, these are moments where we're filming something and then we see the oil being loaded into the car. The camera shifts to the oil for a second and then goes back. That's hard stuff to find unless you have, significant notes and all that kind of stuff, as you go into the post-production period, which we didn't have the luxury of having on this show. So, being able to search, find me a moment where Maggie looks nervous by the racetrack, or find me a moment where, we see the Pennzoil logo, or whatever it is, and being able to see instantly every single one of those instances where it comes up, even just like the selection process, because, traditionally you're sifting through all the footage and then you're like, oh, I want to use the second time I saw it, not the fifth time I saw it. That's hours of work for an editor or an assistant editor. To be able to use a search function that instantly pops up, that again, like, recognizes everything from logos to, emotion on people, and does it very accurately. It was huge for us. I mean, again, the time savings on this specific project were massive because of Cara.
Yeah, that's amazing. And did you guys find that the model was adequately pre-trained on things like Pennzoil and Shell? Like, did it understand those logos out of the box, or did you guys have to train it up for that?
No, the logo side of things we didn't. The human faces we did. Obviously, like we loaded in 5 to 10, different headshots and screen captures from the actual series itself, to train that model. But for the sponsors like Pennzoil, Yokohama, Porsche, and all those guys, we were able to search, like, find me a time where we see the Porsche logo on the car, and it brought up all those in and out points in massively long takes where we saw that. So even just like creatively, it allowed our editors to really dedicate time to crafting the story, rather than these laborious, boring tasks of searching through hours and hours and hours and hours of clips to find 1 to 2 seconds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the way that AI is meant to be used.
Yeah,
right. As an additive creative tool, as an augmentation to what people are doing, and
like I say,
not a replacement, but a an additional engine behind it.
Yeah, it took out the very time-consuming sections of this post-production period, and like I say, allowed the editors to really focus on crafting the story and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, like, the show is a lot better because of it.
And when you were training up, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Well, it just brings up another good point that I want to ask Adam. So, we've all been used to the processes over the last, 10, 20 years of managing assets. And people have invested just hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to manage their assets, tag their assets, log their assets correctly. So when they got into post-production, they, had something to do the retrieval. And we've all heard the horror stories as well of implementation of asset management systems where it was failure in process in the way that they were tagging or logging, or it was, employees not getting engaged with the software, the workflow. So my question on that with Adam is, CaraOne got in there, you brought it in, in the midst of a production. How did that go in getting the editors and the producers to adapt to CaraOne in the workflow?
I mean, it's such an easy, UI to use. It's a search function and it does all the work in the back end. So implementing it into our workflow was extremely easy. And like I say, because of, this was a smaller independent project. We didn't have studio support on this. We didn't have all the support staff on people taking post-production notes and stuff like that. We had multiple units going on at a time. And, frankly, like the footage was organized as best as it could have been. But, it was still a pretty daunting task just due to the shoot ratio of the show, to actually go through all this stuff and actually put the story together. And, it's like with docuseries, like you shoot and a lot of the time you kind of know what the story is going to be, but you're finding a lot of the story in the post-production workflow. So, even with us being as organized as we possibly could, I knew that going into post-production on this before, CaraOne came into the picture, that there was going to be months of just sorting through footage and doing string outs and picking the best sections and all that kind of stuff. And, we still had to do an element of that, but CaraOne sped up the process significantly.
Excellent. Jason, you got another question?
I think I did, but now it's kind of escaped me. But what I do want to say is definitely kind of touches back on the asset management piece of things, because we've had discussions with folks about CaraOne and their existing asset management. And one of the questions is that seems coming up is is it going to write tags back to my asset manager? Like, is it going to say, yeah, okay, here's where Maggie was happy on the track. Okay, it's at this point. Like, how do I get the metadata out of it? And it's this kind of different way of thinking about things that people need to be led into. It's like, well, you don't really need that anymore.
No.
Like, metadata was a crutch to get you to that point as a human, based around the limitations of old asset management systems. This is kind of like plugging your brain directly into the assets themselves. So you don't need to have your assets tagged the way that you used to, because the tags are inherent in the content of the media itself. So when Maggie's happy on the track, or when Pennzoil is being poured into a car, there's no way you would get that granular level of tagging no matter what you did. And I think, Adam, you kind of touched on that, right? Where the first time you watch through a clip, you see it differently than the second time or the third time or the fourth time you watch it, because you have a different context in the way you're going to assemble the story at that point. So the way you tag something on, pass one is different than you tag it on pass four. Or the way one AE is going to tag it is different than the way another AE is going to tag it.
The variables, right? The interpretation of the emotions and all that kind of stuff. Like, again, CaraOne, it's like having the smartest editor who knows all the footage back to front in your back pocket at all times. It's and like I say, the search function on it is so incredible and so accurate and adaptable. Like with a very slight change in the prompt, you get an entire new bunch of clips, as well as some of the old ones as well. So having that flexibility to not be limited to your metadata tags as well, right? To be able to search for different nuances that you wouldn't be able to do if things were just traditionally tagged. That's an incredible tool to have in your back pocket for post-production workflows.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost hard to think that way in a way, because you're so used to looking at like, okay, outdoors or helicopter or like keywords and stringing those together, excuse me, in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
But now it's inherent within the model itself and within the data itself. So it's a whole new way of thinking about the data that's there. And it's pretty exciting
I always remember as well, like there was a moment that our director had in the back of our head. He had this shot that, I think Torsten was like out on the track looking at the track, and it just started raining, and it was like this really incredible moment that was, in a massive folder with a whole bunch of clips from that day and all that kind of stuff. And he was able to search, Torsten on the track when it started raining, and it popped up immediately. Like even like stuff like that, like, moments that the director or the people shooting it are remembering on set, because again, you don't have these, notes being taken for post-production on these kind of shoots. And like I say, being able to, that would have taken them potentially 2 to 3 hours to find that one clip and that one section within that clip. To be able to type it in and it come up instantly. Like I say, it's like having the smartest AE in your back pocket who's watched your footage a million times.
All right. What would you, if you were to kind of think back now from a return on investment for the project that you're on, time savings, cost savings, you got a feel for that compared to the traditional way that you were doing it?
I definitely have an estimate as to what that would have been, and I think it probably would have taken us, at least 1 to 1.5 months to, you know, and honestly, like even with that time frame, like we wouldn't have even got close to what we would have got with Cara. Just to, like I say, sort through and edit footage and all that kind of stuff, and do these string outs and find these golden nuggets and tag all the the brand integrations and all that kind of stuff. I was planning on having initially a 4-person team on for a month and a half just to do that section alone. And honestly, because of Cara, we were able to basically jump straight into the edit. So that's a significant cost savings right there. And then even, when it comes to, the lead editors and the directors and all that kind of stuff, the people who are actually, putting the final story together, again, with a shoot ratio like ours, like I would estimate that our shoot ratio is probably like 90 to 1 in that world. Just the time that it has saved them, and even just the fatigue, right? Just, the fatigue that you get from searching through all these clips to find very, very specific things. So I think from an efficiency standpoint, it's significantly stepped up, the efficiency of the post-production process. It's also allowed the editors to spend their energy on, like I say, crafting the story, as opposed to, sifting through thousands and thousands and thousands of clips. So, I mean, an estimate on this project, I would say it's sped up our post-production process by at least a third.
Very good. Did you use Cara to help build social media clips and stuff too? Is that part of the process, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, so, being a show that has brand sponsors, a big part of, so obviously there's the contractual obligations for the brands to be within the show, but we also, we run all of our own marketing for our shows as well. And, the brands are very involved in that. There's a lot of brand deliverables when it comes to that side of things. We give them custom content that is, some of it's cut out of the show, some of it is completely edited from scratch, specific for that brand. And like I say, a lot of that stuff as well is spread out over multiple days, and sometimes multiple different like shoot bulks, because we shot this race at a time basically. So there was 10 different trips out that had a bunch of footage in it, and we had Yokohama stuff in day one, and we had Yokohama stuff sporadically spread through those days as well. So yeah, on the social media side, and specifically with the brand integration side, being able to simply search like Yokohama and have every single Yokohama clip pop up, that's an incredible tool. And again, that would have taken someone a month of tagging to go through all of the footage from this shoot.
Jason, anything else you wanna ask?
I'm curious to know, Adam, in your workflow, do you have dedicated assistant editors, or are your editors doing all of the review of the raw footage and kind of picking out the stuff that they want to see?
It's a project to project based, but generally our workflow is, assistant editors will come in, they'll sift through all the footage, they'll start putting together string outs, that's overseen by our lead editor and a director, and then, or lead editors. And then, as that process moves forward, the lead editors start coming in behind the assistant editors and crafting the show.
Yeah, I think some of the concern is always, around AI is like, is it going to take my job? And our assistant editor is going to be out of a job because CaraOne's going to do everything that they're doing. And my feeling is that it's not. It just makes them more efficient at what they do and gives them the tools that they need to provide more relevant information up to
Honestly,
the edit team.
it
Yeah.
makes them more efficient, and it removes the tasks that most of those guys don't want to do, and it does it for you.
Yeah.
That's what we got to get, the testimonial from the AE. How
Yeah.
well it helps him do his job better.
Yeah, for sure. No, like I say, I think, this was a pretty daunting task, this production going into it, for post. And I remember seeing this at NAB. I was over at NAB and I was checking out all the cool stuff, and I saw the Cara booth and I started talking to the guy there. And when he showed me it, I turned around to my friend who was with me, who was another producer on the series, and I was like, shit, we need this right now.
So how are you guys inside your company? How are you managing the system? Do you have an IT department that manages it, or does it manage itself? Kind of like how do you guys keep it
I mean,
updated?
yeah, we have a pretty tech savvy team, honestly. There's, I oversee a lot of the tech stuff in the company, but then also we have another two team members who are incredibly tech savvy, with all this kind of stuff. So it's all managed internally. I mean, when we got Cara, I think it took us one or two Zoom sessions with the techs over there to get it set up and get it on our system and get it pointed at our NAS system and the correct folders and all that kind of stuff. From that point, I uploaded the headshots of the cast and the characters in there, and then we started using it for what it is and for what it does. It's an incredibly like simple and automated setup. We basically had it set up on the Friday. It watched all the footage over the weekend. By Monday, we were able to use the search function.
It's amazing. It's great. And you said you had how many terabytes of footage?
It's about 70 terabytes of footage. It's about 70 terabytes of footage, but it's FX6 footage, so it's already pretty compressed. So the files are very small as it is. There's just a lot of them.
I'm just thinking in terms of
CaraOne doesn't really care about the capacity as much as the hours. So how many hours of footage do you think it was?
Oh, I mean, I'd honestly have to do the calculation, but just so you know, our average day, basically 12-hour days, 5 main cameras, rolling most of the time. So you've got that amount of footage. I'd say there was at least 6 to 7 hours of footage from each camera per day. Then we had the car rig cameras, and that was up to 6 cameras per day. And some of those races were like 20 minutes long, and they were like 4 20-minute races during the day. There was another 2 of the races were 8 hours long, so right there we were looking at 40 hours of footage per race per day, just in the race footage alone. So I mean, it's astronomical.
Hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Oh, thousands, easily thousands.
Yeah, what I was getting at is you kept all that stuff off the cloud. You didn't have a transfer time up to the cloud. You didn't have any indexing time in the cloud. That all stayed on your own NAS.
No, like I said,
facility.
We plugged it in. It pointed to the NAS. We were plugged into the internet so that the Scale Logic team could come in remotely and help us set it up and all that kind of stuff. And that was a very efficient process. And then no, it's on a local network. It's not even attached to the internet. Which, for us as well, being a smaller independent company and all that kind of stuff, security is a big thing, and it's something that we worry about. So being able to have all of our post-production systems, all the project files, all the footage, and all that kind of stuff offline, that's huge. And again, even like you mentioned before, like the price of cloud backups and the price of storing stuff on the cloud and the ongoing price of that, it makes these kind of projects impossible. If we had to go that way, it would make these projects impossible to do.
Anything else, Jason?
I don't think so. We covered a lot today, so it's I was happy to kind of get a little bit of a insight into the way you guys work at it. That sounds like a cool project. So
yeah, this one's very good, and honestly, like it's exceeded our expectations. Like we're about to wrap up the we've just wrapped up the third episode. We're about to wrap up the fourth episode, and we've done a couple of test screenings on this project, and the feedback has been awesome. It's something that we're really proud of, and yeah, I can't wait for it to come out and for everyone to be able to see it.
When does it air?
We will have our air date in a month's time, but it'll be probably around March, April.
Do you know what platform it's going on yet, or can you say yet?
No, can't say yet.
We won't record that then.
Can't say yet, but we'll announce it soon for sure.
Just don't forget me in the credits, all right?
Yeah, no, we won't.
Well, I appreciate it, Adam. Appreciate you jumping on, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, mate.
Great
Thanks a lot,
chat.
Jason.
Take care, man.